In the quiet hours of the night, when the world finally stops shouting, a different kind of noise begins. It's the noise that lives inside the mind, a slow, heavy ache, a quiet storm no one else can hear. This is the voice of modern depression, not always dramatic, not always loud, but deep, persistent, and unending. Today, we live in an age where everything is connected, yet every day more and more people feel disconnected from the world and from themselves. The world has never been more advanced, more efficient, more comfortable, yet human hearts have never felt heavier. Depression in the modern age is not the same as the depression of centuries past. It is shaped by the world we've built, a world of speed, a world of screens, a world of pressure, a world of comparison, a world that tells us we must constantly be more, do more, achieve more, or we are nothing. Depression in the modern age has 1,000 faces. For some, it comes as sadness. For others, as emptiness. For many, it comes disguised as exhaustion, irritability, isolation, or numbness. Some do not cry at all. They simply feel nothing. Some do not collapse, they just slowly fade away. And the greatest tragedy is this: millions are suffering and they don't even know why. Because depression today does not always feel like a single moment of collapse. It feels like a gradual draining of color, like someone slowly turning down the brightness of your life until everything looks gray. It feels like being alive, but not living. Breathing, but not feeling. Smiling, but not believing. People wake up every morning with a weight they cannot name. They go to school, to work, to social media, carrying invisible wounds that no one sees. They laugh in public and cry in silence. They keep moving, keep trying, keep pretending until pretending becomes easier than explaining. Modern depression is a silent epidemic. It spreads not through air or water, but through loneliness, stress, comparison, and fear. It spreads through the feeling of falling behind, through the pressure to be perfect, through the belief that everyone else is living a better life. But the truth is, depression is not a personal failure. It is a human response to an inhuman world. A world where people measure their worth by numbers, likes, followers, marks, ranks, salaries. A world where rest is considered laziness, where vulnerability is considered weakness, where emotions are treated as an inconvenience, where people are expected to be machines, productive, stable, controlled, and consistent. But you are not a machine. You are human. You feel deeply. You break. You heal. You rise. This is a battle that millions fight quietly. Depression in the modern age is not always obvious. It doesn't always look like crying in a dark room. Sometimes it looks like the top student in class. Sometimes it looks like the employee who never misses work. Sometimes it looks like the friend who always makes everyone laugh. Sometimes it looks like the strong one, the responsible one, the successful one. Yes, even the strongest people break. Even the most successful feel empty. Even the happiest looking people fall apart inside. Because depression today is not just emotional, it is psychological, social, cultural, and digital. It is woven into the way we live, the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we compare ourselves to others. We live in a world where everyone is performing, showing the best parts, hiding the worst. And in this constant performance, we forget that behind every perfect picture is a story no one sees. Behind every success is a struggle. Behind every smile is a secret battle. Modern depression grows in silence because silence is what society teaches. From childhood, we learn to suppress. Stop crying. Don't complain. Be strong. Don't talk about your feelings. People will judge you, and we grow up believing that emotions are dangerous, that vulnerability is shameful, that asking for help is embarrassing. So instead of speaking, we swallow our pain. Instead of reaching out, we retreat. Instead of crying, we numb. Instead of seeking help, we hide. And in that hiding, the depression grows. Imagine carrying a weight every day. A weight no one sees, no one asks about, no one helps lift. You carry it to school. You carry it to work. You carry it to family gatherings. You carry it even while trying to sleep. Eventually, you forget what life felt like without the weight. It becomes part of you. You learn to move with it. But every step becomes heavier. Every day becomes harder. This is the experience of millions. Modern depression often begins slowly. You stop enjoying things. You stop feeling motivated. You stop replying to messages. Your room becomes a mess. Your energy disappears. Your goals fade. Your friendships weaken. Your dreams feel far away. You begin to feel like a ghost in your own life. And yet you keep going, because you have to, because the world doesn't pause for pain, because society demands performance even when your soul is exhausted. This is why modern depression is so dangerous. It hides beneath functioning. People learn to function while suffering. They learn to survive while breaking. They learn to smile while hurting, and the world assumes they are okay. But they are not. Depression today is fueled by 5 major forces. The first is relentless comparison. Everyone is comparing their life to someone else's highlight reel. People no longer live for themselves, they live for an audience. Second, crushing pressure. Academic pressure, financial pressure, family pressure, societal pressure. Pressure to succeed before you're 20. Pressure to be perfect before you're 30. Pressure to pretend forever. Third, loneliness in a connected world. Millions are surrounded by people, yet feel completely alone. Digital connection has replaced human connection. Fourth is emotional suppression. We are taught to hide our pain until it rots inside us. And finally, a world moving too fast for the human heart. Technology has advanced faster than our emotional capacity, and we are drowning in the speed. These forces combine into one storm, a storm inside the mind. A storm that has no thunder, no lightning, no wind, only silence, only heaviness, only emptiness. The silent storm of modern depression. But depression is not just darkness. It is not just suffering. It is not just pain. It is also a message, a signal, a cry for change. Your mind is not your enemy. It is trying to tell you something. It is telling you that you are overwhelmed, tired, alone, unheard, unappreciated, disconnected from yourself. Your mind collapses because your heart has carried too much for too long. Depression is not weakness. It is the body's way of saying, I can't keep living like this. And that is where healing begins. In the understanding that depression is not a failure, it is a message, a wound that needs care, a story that needs gentleness. If these words resonate with you, know that you are not alone in this fight. It's okay to not be okay, and it's brave to ask for help. Speaking with a therapist or a trusted loved one is a sign of strength, not weakness. There are resources available, like hotlines and mental health services, that can offer support. You deserve to feel seen and heard. In today's world, depression often takes on a new shape, one sculpted by the immense weight of expectations. There are the expectations from society, our families, our culture, and even from the unrealistic world we see online. We're told we must always be strong, always succeed, and always know exactly what we're doing. We're expected to have our lives perfectly figured out, to never fail, never doubt, and never ever struggle. But let's be real, humans aren't built for constant perfection. We are designed to learn, to fall, to get back up, and to grow through it all. Yet, the modern world often leaves no room for our imperfections. There's no space for making mistakes, no patience for moving slowly, and no understanding for emotional breakdowns. There's simply no space for being human. This relentless pressure eventually turns inward. It becomes a harsh inner critic, filling our minds with self-blame, self-doubt, and ultimately, self-destruction. We start punishing ourselves for not meeting these impossible standards. We begin to believe our worth is tied directly to our achievements, and that our value is defined only by what we can offer others. In this kind of world, it feels like we have to earn everything, earn love, earn rest, earn acceptance, even earn basic kindness. This mental environment is suffocating. It drains the soul and leads straight to burnout, isolation, and for many, depression. For those who experience it, depression isn't just a feeling of sadness. It's a constant battle against thoughts that attack from within. It's like fighting an enemy that knows all your weaknesses because that enemy is using your own mind against you. And yet, people carry on. They go to school, they go to work, they take care of their responsibilities. They smile for photos, they laugh at jokes, and they sit quietly in rooms full of people trying to blend in. They are living, but on the inside, they are fighting a silent, exhausting war every single day. There's another critical piece to this puzzle, the loneliness that can exist even when we're surrounded by people. Today, many of us are constantly in the company of others, yet we're starved for real emotional intimacy. Friends might talk, but they rarely truly listen. Families might sit in the same room, but they don't always understand each other. Partners can live under the same roof but never share their deepest truths. We're all so afraid of being vulnerable. We're afraid of being judged, of being misunderstood. We're terrified of being seen as too much, or, even worse, not enough. So we keep it all locked inside. And the more we hide, the more misunderstood we feel. The more misunderstood we feel, the lonelier we become, and the deeper the depression can grow. This silent loneliness is perhaps one of the most painful parts of depression. You can be in a crowd of 100 people and still feel like you don't belong anywhere, like you're completely invisible. You might even feel like no one would notice if you were to just disappear. This emotional isolation is absolutely devastating. The tragedy is that most people don't recognize depression early on. They dismiss it as just being tired or stressed out. They think they're just overthinking, being too emotional, or just having a bad week. But then, a bad week turns into a bad month, and a bad month turns into a bad year. And slowly, without even realizing it, depression becomes a part of their daily life. If you look closely, you'll see that modern depression often doesn't start with sadness. It starts with disconnection. Disconnection from people, from passions, from a sense of purpose, and from joy. You stop connecting to the things that once mattered to you. You stop caring about the things that used to get you excited. You stop thinking about the future, and you stop feeling the present moment. It feels like you're losing touch with the person you used to be. It's not just sadness. It's a fading of the soul. But even in the deepest darkness, something important remains. It's that quiet part of you that still holds on to hope. The part that still wants to heal, that still wants to live freely, and that still wants to feel again. That small, persistent spark within you is the one part that depression can never truly destroy. Remember, you are not alone in this fight. It's okay to not be okay, and it is a sign of incredible strength to reach out for help. If you or someone you know is struggling, please know there are resources available. You can talk to a mental health professional, a trusted friend, or a family member. Help is out there, and healing is possible. Thank you for listening. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Depression changes how people interact with the world. They start to withdraw, not because they want to be alone, but because they feel exhausted by the effort it takes to pretend. Social situations become overwhelming. Conversations feel draining. Even a simple interaction can feel like climbing a mountain. So they start canceling plans, avoiding calls, delaying replies, and distancing themselves from others, not out of rejection, but out of sheer exhaustion. In depression, silence becomes a language. It becomes a shield. It's a way to hide the chaos inside. And when that silence becomes too comfortable, it turns into isolation. Isolation deepens the loneliness. Loneliness deepens the pain. And the pain deepens the depression, creating a cycle that feels impossible to break. One of the most misunderstood parts of depression is the feeling of numbness. Many people imagine depression as intense sadness, but often it's the complete absence of feeling. A person wakes up and feels nothing, not joy, not excitement, not hope, not desire. Food tastes bland. Music sounds flat, colors seem dull, time feels like it's dragging on. Days blur into each other and life loses its texture. This emotional numbness is one of the clearest signs of depression. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of interest. It's the mind shutting down in self-defense, like a circuit overloaded with too much electricity. The whole system collapses to prevent further damage. This collapse feels like emptiness, and emptiness is one of the most painful human experiences. When someone says, "I don't feel anything," they are not exaggerating. They are describing a real psychological state that makes the world feel distant, muted, and unreal. They are describing a mind that is struggling just to hold itself together. This numbness can be even more frightening than sadness because it makes a person feel disconnected from their own life. And yet, despite this numbness, people continue to live. They continue to work. They continue to smile. They continue to carry their responsibilities. They continue to show up every single day. This is not weakness. This is a powerful form of endurance, a quiet, invisible strength that rarely gets recognized. Another part of depression that many people don't understand is the guilt. People with depression often feel guilty for feeling depressed in the first place. They blame themselves for their own pain. They think their sadness is a burden to others. They think they should be stronger, more grateful, more positive. They punish themselves for emotions they never chose to have. They carry guilt for missing important events, for being distant in conversations, for struggling to keep up, for not feeling happy even when good things happen. This guilt just deepens the depression. It becomes a heavy cloak that suffocates the mind. The person begins to feel like a problem instead of a person. They might even start to think the world would be better off without them. These thoughts are not truths. They are symptoms of a mind overwhelmed by emotional weight. Healing doesn't come from being told to just think differently. Healing comes from support, patience, compassion, rest, understanding, and sometimes professional help. Healing comes from the slow rebuilding of emotional strength. It comes from small steps, not sudden leaps. It comes from acknowledging pain instead of trying to hide it. Every person with depression carries a different story. Some carry childhood wounds that never healed. Some carry a heartbreak that broke them deeply. Some carry trauma that changed the way they view the world. Some carry stress that slowly drained their spirit. Some carry a loneliness that became unbearable. And some don't even know where the sadness began, they just know it's there. Depression has many origins, but there's one common factor. It overwhelms the human heart. And the human heart is not weak, it just absorbs more than it should. People are more sensitive, more emotional, more complex than society often allows them to be. We feel deeply, care deeply, dream deeply, and love deeply, and because we feel so deeply, we also hurt deeply. But deep pain does not mean permanent pain. Just as the heart can break, it can also heal. Just as the mind can collapse, it can also recover. Just as darkness can envelop a person's life, light can return in ways they never imagined. Healing is real, even when it feels completely impossible. People who have fallen into depression often rise stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than before. What they need most is not pressure, but support. Not judgment, but understanding. Not correction, but connection. Not solutions, but safety. Not demands, but patience. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is simply your presence, your willingness to sit with them in silence, without trying to fix them. Because healing begins where understanding lives. Every person with depression is fighting a battle that is invisible to most. Every day they wake up and face a world that feels heavier than it should, and yet, they continue. They continue breathing, they continue trying. They continue hoping, even in the smallest of ways. That alone makes them stronger than they realize. And no matter how lost they feel, they are not beyond repair. No matter how dark the night feels, the morning always comes. No matter how broken their heart feels, it still beats with the possibility of love and meaning. No matter how painful the journey has been, there are better chapters ahead, chapters they haven't lived yet. Chapters filled with moments they can't even imagine right now. If you or someone you know is struggling, please know that help is available. Reaching out is a sign of strength. You can talk to a trusted friend, a family member, or a mental health professional. There are resources and support systems ready to help you navigate this. You are not alone in this fight. Depression recovery is never a straight line. It does not move in perfect order, and it does not follow a predictable timetable. Instead, healing is a slow human process that involves emotional understanding, psychological adjustment, and gradual rebuilding of strength. Many people expect recovery to feel like waking up one morning and suddenly being back to normal, but real rehabilitation is far quieter. It begins in small moments that are easy to overlook. Moments like realizing you deserve help, deciding to try even a little, and reminding yourself that you are still worthy of care even when you feel broken. Depression often grows from emotions that were never processed. People carry sadness, disappointment, regret, and stress for years, keeping everything inside because they do not want to burden others or appear weak. Psychology shows that unprocessed emotions become heavy, and if kept inside too long, they can transform into depression. The mind tries to stay strong, but the emotional heart struggles silently. Healing begins the moment a person gives themselves permission to feel. Emotional processing means naming what hurts, talking about past pain, allowing yourself to cry, or acknowledging anger you never expressed. It does not mean drowning in emotions. It means understanding them, allowing them to be real, and letting them pass through instead of trapping them inside. A major part of rehabilitation is self-compassion. Depression becomes stronger when a person turns against themselves. Harsh self-talk, constant guilt, and feelings of worthlessness act like fuel for depression. Self-compassion softens this inner cruelty. It means treating yourself with the same understanding and kindness you would offer a friend. It means accepting that suffering is part of the human experience, not a personal failure. When people learn to speak to themselves gently, depression loses some of its power. Psychology shows that self-compassion increases resilience, reduces distress, and helps the brain regulate emotions more effectively. Depression disrupts a person's daily structure. Days begin to blend together, sleep becomes irregular, appetite changes, and life loses rhythm. But the brain needs structure. Routine provides emotional stability and signals safety. Rebuilding simple routines becomes a powerful tool of rehabilitation, waking up at the same time, eating meals consistently, taking short walks, drinking water after waking, or sitting in sunlight for a few minutes. These small actions restore predictability and reduce internal chaos. Even small routines matter because consistency builds momentum, and momentum supports healing. Human connection is another essential part of recovery. Depression pushes people into isolation, and isolation strengthens depression. The mind begins to believe lies such as, "No one cares," or "I am better alone," even though humans are social beings who heal through connection. Support can come from many places. A friend who listens without judgment, a family member who offers understanding, a mentor who provides guidance, or a support group that offers shared experiences. Even one supportive relationship can significantly improve emotional healing. You do not need many people to heal, only the right people. In some cases, depression becomes too heavy to manage without medical support. Medication does not erase sadness and does not create artificial happiness. It simply helps regulate brain chemistry so a person can participate in therapy and rebuild their life. It is recommended when depression is severe, long-lasting, or accompanied by biological symptoms such as extreme fatigue, sleep disturbances, or suicidal thoughts. There is no shame in needing medication. Mental health is part of physical health, and treating the brain is as valid as treating any other organ. Understanding triggers is an important part of rehabilitation. Depression often follows predictable patterns that repeat during times of stress or emotional difficulty. Triggers can be unresolved grief, loneliness, financial worries, work pressure, chronic illness, relationship conflict, or emotional exhaustion. By identifying these triggers through journaling, therapy, or self-reflection, a person can create strategies to manage them. This might include setting boundaries, seeking support earlier, reducing stressful environments, or preparing for emotionally difficult situations in advance. When you understand what triggers your depression, you become better prepared to protect yourself. Depression also affects a person's sense of identity. Many people reach a point where they feel disconnected from who they used to be. They forget their strengths, lose interest in passions, and feel detached from their own personality. Rehabilitation helps restore identity gradually. This happens by exploring old interests, rediscovering passions, setting small goals, learning new skills, and remembering past moments of strength. Identity recovery is not sudden. It is a slow rebuilding of confidence, self-knowledge, and personal meaning. Healing from depression is not about returning to your old self. It is about becoming a stronger, wiser, more emotionally aware version of yourself. It is about seeing your own humanity with kindness rather than judgment. It is about learning that struggle does not mean failure, and that healing is not a test of speed but a journey of endurance. And so we arrive at a deeper layer of the human experience, one that countless people live through silently, a place where explaining your pain feels harder than enduring it. Depression is not only the absence of happiness. It is the absence of emotional energy. It is not that you don't want to feel better. It is that your mind no longer remembers what better feels like. And this is where the real story of recovery begins, because rehabilitation is not just about fixing what is broken. It is about teaching the brain to feel again, to trust again, to believe again. Depression changes the inner landscape. It changes how you process time, how you evaluate your worth, how you respond to stress, and how you interpret silence. You start to see the world not as it is, but through the tinted glass of exhaustion. Rehabilitation, therefore, has to begin with one of the most important steps of all. Acknowledging that depression is not a character flaw. It is not a personal weakness. It is not proof that you lack discipline. It is a response, often a very intelligent response, to overwhelming emotional load, prolonged stress, unresolved trauma, or years of functioning alone without support. Many people try to fight depression the way they would fight a cold. Push through, force themselves forward, pretend everything is normal. But depression does not respond to pressure. It responds to understanding. It loosens its grip only when the person begins to explore not just the symptoms but the causes behind the symptoms. And this exploration often begins with the simplest question. What is hurting inside me that I have never allowed myself to express? Rehabilitation is not linear. Some days you make progress and other days you fall back into the shadows without knowing why. This does not mean you are failing. It means the brain is healing at its own pace. Emotional recovery is like relearning how to walk after a long injury. You cannot sprint immediately. You cannot judge yourself by the strength you had before the injury. You work with what is available now, and you build up gradually, gently, persistently. One of the most misunderstood realities about depression is that the person suffering is often highly functional. They might work, study, laugh with friends, attend events, and maintain responsibilities. But internally, they are carrying emotional weight so heavy that every action feels multiplied by 10. Rehabilitation, therefore, includes teaching the brain to separate survival mode from actual living. People in long-term depression often operate from survival mode for years. They do things automatically, without emotional engagement, simply because they have to. Recovery means interrupting this autopilot and slowly inviting life to be felt rather than endured. There is a powerful shift that happens when a person begins to understand the connection between their thoughts, their biology, and their emotions. Depression changes brain chemistry, affecting norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin pathways. But it is not purely chemical. It is influenced by lifestyle, trauma, attachment patterns, loneliness, loss, chronic stress, and how the mind interprets events. Rehabilitation therefore works through multiple channels: psychological, biological, social, and behavioral. One of the most important principles in rehabilitation is that you don't wait to feel motivated before taking small steps. Instead, you take small steps to create motivation. The brain generates energy from action, not the other way around. A 5-minute walk, a 2-minute journaling exercise, a single social interaction, or a small routine change can shift a person from emotional paralysis into a slight movement. And slight movement is the beginning of growth. Recovery also requires safe emotional spaces. Many people fall deeper into depression because they have never had a space where they could speak without fear of being judged, misunderstood, or dismissed. Emotional safety is not a luxury. It is a requirement for healing. When someone listens to your pain without trying to minimize it, without rushing you, without labeling you, something inside you softens. The nervous system relaxes, the emotional burden becomes shareable, and the process of healing becomes possible. A surprising part of rehabilitation is learning to sit with uncomfortable emotions rather than suppressing them. Depression often develops when years of suppressed feelings, grief, anger, disappointment, fear, shame pile up without an outlet. The mind eventually shuts down because it cannot hold anymore. Recovery, therefore, invites a gentle release of emotions that were never allowed expression. Sometimes this happens through therapy, sometimes through writing, sometimes through honest conversations, and sometimes through simple acts of self-awareness. Another essential element is rebuilding self-worth. Depression tells you that you are not enough, that you are a burden, that nothing you do matters. Rehabilitation challenges these conclusions by showing evidence to the contrary. You survived days you thought would break you. You kept going when your mind told you to stop. You showed strength even when you felt none. Recovery is not about becoming someone new. It is about rediscovering who you were before pain buried your identity. Depression also changes your relationship with the future. You stop expecting anything good. This is why one of the most effective forms of rehabilitation is helping the mind imagine a future that feels possible. Not a grand future, not a perfect future, just a realistic one. When you imagine a morning where you feel peaceful, a day where you feel present, or a relationship where you feel valued, the brain begins to rebuild hope. And hope is not just an emotion. It is a neurological direction. It signals the brain to repair itself. A critical part of recovery is understanding triggers, not to avoid them entirely, but to respond differently. Depression rehabilitation teaches people how to recognize early warning signs. Irritability, loss of interest, sleep changes, emotional numbness, or sudden negative thoughts. When you identify these signs early, you can intervene before the downward spiral deepens. You can reach out to someone, adjust routines, practice grounding techniques, or take time to rest. This is not weakness. This is emotional intelligence. Some days in recovery feel like breakthroughs. Others feel like failures. But emotional healing is like climbing a mountain with fog around you. You cannot see how far you've come, but every step matters. Even on the days that feel stagnant, your brain is rewiring itself. New connections are forming, emotional regulation is strengthening, and mental resilience is growing. And perhaps one of the most powerful truths of rehabilitation is this: you do not need to feel strong to begin healing. You only need to be willing. Willing to take one small step. Willing to open one small door. Willing to believe just a little that healing is possible. Rehabilitation is not the end of depression. It is the beginning of reclaiming your life. It means you have learned to understand your triggers, to navigate your emotions, to recognize when your mind is slipping, and to reach out instead of withdrawing. It means you no longer carry everything alone. It means you have tools now: awareness, resilience, routines, support systems that protect your mental health rather than abandon it. You are no longer fighting blind. You are no longer running without direction. You have begun the transformation that so many never allow themselves to begin. You have chosen healing, even when healing felt impossible. The truth is this: you are not broken. You are not fragile. You are not incapable. You are wounded, and wounded people can heal. You are tired, and tired people can rest. You are hurting, and hurting people can recover. You are human, and being human means falling, breaking, learning, and rising again. There will still be difficult days. There will still be moments when motivation disappears, when old thoughts return, when progress seems to fade. But these moments are not failures. They are reminders that healing is a path, not a switch. A path with curves, pauses, bends, and slow climbs. And every step you take, no matter how small, is movement toward a life that feels more like your own. Recovery does not promise that you will never feel sadness again. It promises that sadness will no longer control you. It promises that when darkness returns, you will have light to guide you. It promises that when depression whispers lies, you will remember your truth. It promises that even when your mind feels weak, your will to live will be stronger. And at the end of this journey, there is something more powerful than happiness, more stable than excitement, more grounding than motivation. Peace. Quiet, steady peace. The kind that doesn't shout, but gently stays. The kind that doesn't depend on circumstances, but grows from within. Peace that allows you to breathe without fear, sleep without guilt, think without pain, and live without constantly fighting yourself. This is the real goal of rehabilitation: to help you create a life where peace is possible, where joy is allowed, where connection is safe, and where growth continues long after the depression has faded. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe and share it with others who may need it.